Welcome, welcome everybody. Welcome to this very special webinar we're going to do for you today. We're just going to give a little time for everyone to get in. 1 second. Good morning, and welcome. Welcome. We'll get started in just a little while. We know we have a big, a large group of people joining us this morning. We just want to make sure everyone has time to get in before we get started. Let me do it. Okay, as I work to figure out how to do this. Good morning, Nathan. Good to see you again this week. Hold on. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We will get started shortly. We will get started in just a moment. Having a few technical difficulties, but we're going to get it all worked out. Good morning. Good morning. Just a few more seconds and we will get started. Thank you for joining us. Here we go. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I just want to thank you once again for joining us for this wonderful Saturday morning as we talk about. We thank you for coming and joining us today. And we know that you could actually be anywhere this Saturday morning. You actually could be anywhere this Saturday morning, but you chose to be here with us. And for that, we are very, very grateful. And so my name is Stacey Dupre. And again, on behalf of St. Andrews and our admissions team, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for our 4th installment of our Saturdays with St. Andrews series. Now, 3 weeks ago, we launched with our first installment. It was an information-packed hour on the application and admissions process. And 2 weeks ago, we highlighted the tremendous depth and power of our academic program. Last week, we were able to give you a glimpse of how the work of DEIJ, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice, and our diversity education program are interwoven into every area of life at St. Andrews. This week, we want to give you an insider's view into the residential and student life at St. Andrews. Now, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. There is no way, absolutely no way we can cover the breadth of all that we do in any category at St. Andrews in just 1 hour. But we absolutely promise to give you as much as we can and answer as many questions as we can in the time that we're allotted, right? We know that there are myriads of ways that you could be spending your Saturday morning. And we are so grateful that you have chosen to be here with us. And out of respect for your time, and also respect of that long list of things you probably have scheduled that you got to take care of today, let's dive in and get started. And I want you to know that as we introduce ourselves and as we're talking, we want to hear from you. So there is a section down there in the Q&A. We want you to start to put your questions there, right? Because we want to make sure that we get them answered. Now there are times, right, that we'll probably answer your questions as we're talking, but we absolutely will have time at the second half of this hour long time that we have together to answer your questions. So again, my name is Stacy Dupre. I am a member of the admissions team, and I've probably seen many of you during interviews, or will see some. I am co-dean of residential life, head of one of our 3 weekend duty teams. I'm an advisor to 6 students. And I also do 2 nights of dorm duty a week in Pell, which is a 9th grade dorm here on campus. And so now I'm going to turn it over to my co-dean, Will.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm so excited that you're able to join us this morning. And I really wish you could be on campus today. Just to give you an idea, this morning when I woke up to walk my dog, there was a light fog that had blown over the pond with a bright sun. There were some students out for an early crew practice. There were students that were out doing some work and catching up with friends over breakfast. Just a quintessential morning. So I really wish you could have seen it. But I am Will Rarig, the co-dean of residential life. I also teach chemistry, environmental science, and engineering. I'm a cross-country coach. I'm an advisor. I do 2 nights of dorm duty on Sherwood, one of our junior boys dorms. And I'm also a faculty representative on the honor committee and the faculty advisor to our Model UN club and our student weekend activities group, also known as SWAG, which you're going to hear a ton about today. For those of you that have joined us for other Saturdays with St. Andrews, I hope you're beginning to realize what makes St. Andrews special. And for those of you that are just tuning in for the first time, I'm really glad you made today's meeting your first, because you're really going to get to see what the magic of the St. Andrews community looks like. I have a feeling after today, many of you as adults will wish that you could go back to high school. And I hope that many of your students and your children will begin to see what their St. Andrews selves could look like, just as the video was mentioning. There's really, truly a reason that the 3 faculty on this panel are all alum and graduated from St. Andrews and are back here to teach and to work. There's a reason that there's 3 students on this panel on a Saturday morning. St. Andrews is like no other school in the country, and you're really going to get to see that today. And it starts with our student life and our residential program. Oh, and with that, sorry, I'll pass things over to our Dean of Student Life, Will Robinson.
Thanks, Will. So my name is Will Robinson. As Will mentioned, I graduated from St. Andrews from the class of 1997. I've been back at St. Andrews for, this is my 11th year. I am the Dean of Student Life. I'm also the Dean of Environmental Sustainability and would love to talk a little bit about that today. I coach JV boys soccer. I'm working with Alexander Austin right now in an afternoon program we call Forestry, where we get out into the woods in the afternoons. I am an advisor. I am also a weekend duty head, as Mrs. Dupre is. So work with Mr. Rarig in SWAG on running the weekends, and especially many of the students who are here today, or all of the students who are here today. And I think there are probably a lot of other things, but I will stop talking and pass it on to, can I kick it to Teddy?
Sure. My name is Teddy Pyle. I'm a senior this year. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I also came to St. Andrews as a new sophomore 2 years ago. This year, I'm a residential leader on BOM, which is one of our sophomore boys dorms. And I'm also a co-leader of our environmental stewards, which is our environmental activism group on campus. And I'm an editor for The Cardinal, which is our school newspaper. Kind of outside the student life aspect, I also play on the varsity squash team, and I'm a photo major in our arts department. And with that, I'll pass it off to Madeline.
Hello, everybody. My name is Madeline, Madeline Berkness. I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia. But this summer, my family moved to Maine. So now I live in Portland, Maine, which is quite the adventure. I'm a senior this year as well. I live on Pell, which is our freshman girls dorm. So Mrs. Dupre does duty with me. Super fun. One of my sisters is a new sophomore this year, and I'm a peer counselor, so I hang out in like our counselors' offices one night a week and have students come over and talk with me. I'm on swag, so I help plan the weekends, like open mic nights so that people can show off their singing skills and pie eating contests, stuff like that. I started a book club. I'm run on cross country, I row crew, and I'm in the choir. So I'll pass things off to Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex Austin. I would say I'm originally from Rhode Island. I've moved around a lot of my life, but my family now is in Deerfield, Massachusetts. In terms of student life, I'm one of the co-heads of the disciplinary committee. I play varsity lacrosse. Like Will Rob said, I do forestry with him, which is a lot of fun. I created the fishing club. And yeah, so that's it.
Thank you. I know you guys are probably exhausted listening to all of the things that all of us do, but that's what life is like at St. Andrews. And so I want to talk a little bit about our St. Andrews, our residential and student life program, because it is really framed by our philosophy. And that philosophy is to provide all of our students with a safe, kind, exciting living and learning environment that fosters a sense of responsibility, compassion, respect, and appreciation for every member of our community. And we accomplish it in many ways. We do it by embracing really important principles of goodwill, civility, empathy, humanity, equity, radical listening. That is really important, especially at this time, right? And we do it collectively as we're collectively navigating the challenges, and there are challenges, particularly this year, right? But also in celebrating and reaping the rewards of living together in our diverse community. And I believe it begins with the intentional ways in which we structure our dorms, right? So I'll start there with dorm life. If you had a chance to visit St. Andrews, and I don't know that this comes across as well in our virtual tour, but as you're walking through the dorms, there are no locked doors, right? I know if you visited other schools, because I know I've visited other schools, and you have sort of keys to your dorm room or a card that you swipe to get into your room. We don't live like that because it's home, right? I mean, I don't know how many kids, how many of you students on the line on the live right now who actually have to punch in numbers to get into your room door. You lock your doors, and I know parents are like, you don't lock doors, you don't, right? So that's how we live, and we structure that way, and that speaks a lot to a couple of things. One is that respect we talk about for one another. It also talks about a series of trust that we have and the honor about which we live. But we also intentionally structure our dorms where students, so freshmen, ninth graders all live together. 10th graders, sophomores live together. Juniors all live together. We believe fundamentally that developmentally, it works better for kids when they are all sort of in that same grade, that same age. And there are no senior dorms. So again, thinking back to that responsibility, respect, and honor, our seniors don't go off their senior year and live in a house or a dorm where, you know, they're living their best life and everybody else is fending for themselves. They live as residential leaders and residential assistants, as mentors, as sort of peer advisors to the younger students. And that is really sort of that baseline of what sets things in motion. Along with our seniors being that front line, you also have adults living, you know, we intentionally have faculty who live in the dorms, their homes, their apartments open up into the dorm, and they're also supported by a faculty team, right? A team of adults who doing just as Madeline said. I'm one of the faculty on her dorm team, where we come together to help nurture and care for students. So those are the sort of things that are very intentional. There's different ways in which, when you're a ninth grader, you are exposed to certain things. As a sophomore, things get different. You have more responsibility. You grow up more juniors. And so we do believe that living intentionally that way really does set the stage for growing our students into. So those freshmen who are living with these seniors who are modeling what is important to them, they grow up and they want to be that for the freshmen and the younger students that will come after them. And so our seniors play a huge role. And I'd love for Madeline to share a little bit about what she sees as some of the benefits of our dorm structures.
Yeah, of course. So that's definitely what you were saying about the freshmen wanting to grow up and live on freshman dorm. That was me. So my roommate, Sarah, I was really lucky because we were put together freshman year, and we've kind of been together all 4 years. And now we're back on Pell on freshman dorm. And so that's been really great. So I'll just talk a little bit about kind of the connection that you can form with faculty on a dorm. So for example, this year on Pell, one of our faculty members is Ms. Kelsey, who's the art teacher, and it's her first year doing dorm duty, but she's been really great. And a couple of other seniors, including myself, have always wanted to take a drawing class, but we never could fit it in. So, one night I was just talking with Miss Kelsey, and I was like, hey, Miss Kelsey, I really want to take drawing, but I can't fit it in my schedule because there's, too much going on and it's crazy. And she said, well, just swing by this afternoon when you have an hour free, and, I'll set you up. And so I did, and I brought these 2 other girls with me, and now we're kind of doing our own little drawing class, which has been really great. So that's kind of an example of how I connected with a faculty and made something happen. And then to talk about a little bit about the senior kind of freshman relationships and what we do on dorm. This past or last night, actually, Pell had a happy list function. So we all got on Zoom and the RLs handed out colored sheets of paper, and we used markers to write down lists of just things that make us happy. And we all did that together. We played some music, and then we shared it with each other, and we're gonna put that up to decorate our hallways. So that's kind of a little snapshot of what last night looked like. So Mr. Rarig, you want to talk a little bit more about
Yes.
residential
Yeah,
life?
no, I'd love to jump more on that and talk a little bit about some of how our formal structure, I think, really benefits our residential program, as Stacy was saying, and those informal connections and how important they come, but ultimately how student driven all aspects of our school are. And so I think the big thing that, and maybe some of you are thinking about, is why boarding school or why day school? And for me, there's so many things that are taking place on the dorm that just aren't taking place really any other opportunity in your life. The diversity of students that you get to live with and learn from is so different. And it's different than even what the experiences you have are in the classroom. 2 weeks ago, you got to hear about how incredible our academic program is and how it's inquiry driven. And students are taught to think like scholars, but that spills out, and it even begins in our dorms. In our residential program, students are having these informal conversations where they're learning from one another in ways that they don't even realize. And that's built, then again, that enhances the classroom, but then it also comes back on dorm, and students are continuing to talk about what they're talking about in the classroom on dorm. And that doesn't take place anywhere else, but there's different perspectives that are being brought into that. But then continuing, I think, with what Madeline said as well, with how driven our seniors are to give back to the community through a lot of their work in residential life, but that spills out of the school, and it really spills out into student life. So for example, as the faculty advisor for SWAG, which is again our weekend activities programming thing, a lot of schools might be planning everything, and it's like, here's your list of activities, but instead it's each Monday I'm meeting with students and I say, what do you guys want to do this weekend? And they're really driving it, and my responsibility is really just to help them execute it, to make it happen, to call the companies and bring in the food or whatever we're doing. But every aspect of the school is student driven, and really it starts with the seniors, and the seniors from day one of their senior year really take that leadership role, but it quickly trickles down to our juniors and our sophomores and our freshmen are contributing. And you have to make your own fun here. The fun doesn't just happen for you, but there's so many fun things to do. And that's really driven. And I'll let Mr. Robinson continue with how kind of the community builds that.
Yeah, so I think the thing I think the most about St. Andrews is the relationship between students and faculty and staff, and the idea that we as a faculty, as Mr. Eric said, what we try to do is instill like an incredibly high level of expectations in our students, high expectations around maturity, creativity, thoughtfulness, caring about one another, and then we really empower. We really work to empower the students to do great things and support them every single step of the way. So those great things could mean the fall festival that Teddy and Madeline and others put on last weekend that took an enormous amount of work and effort. That was really a gift to the whole school. Or it could just be something as simple as Alex Austin, working with him with an axe last week to not only make sure that he didn't hurt himself, but also to cut and stack about a quarter cord of wood out in the woods. So, we really see our job as faculty, or at least to empower these amazing students, to keep pushing them to their own highest expectations and aspirations, and really supporting them in that work. And the other thing I really want to mention about that piece is the incredible diversity that's intentional. I see there's a question from Magnus from Switzerland. People ask me all the time, like, why would you go to boarding school? I think the idea is that this is an intentionally diverse and complex community that really pushes people from a very young age to care about one another, to really want to be with people different from themselves, to learn and to grow, to refine their own point of view, and to hear others. And we do that in classes, of course, but also beyond classes, up on dorm, as already been mentioned, in hikes around the pond, whatever it might be. So that connection, I think, between students, faculty, and staff, I think, is so critical. And it's what really makes me love, really love this place and this community. I think about these three panelists when they were younger, and now thinking of them as seniors, and it's awesome. I love working with them, and I've loved the journey that we've been able to see them all go on during their time here. It's going to be sad to see them leave, but they will continue to be part of this community for the rest of their lives, as have the three adults who unintentionally are clearly part of this community for the rest of our lives. So I'd love to, obviously love to hear more from Teddy and Alex about that work.
Sure, yeah. I can talk a little bit about clubs, because I think that's really a key component of kind of student life at St. Andrews. I think just from hearing the introduction, you really get an idea of kind of the variety of clubs that we have on campus here, from book club to fishing club to environmental stewards. And there's so many different kind of roles that clubs can play within our community. It's really hard to kind of, I guess, summarize what clubs mean for St. Andrews. I would say generally you could split clubs into two categories: clubs that have like a more internal focus and clubs with a more external focus. So clubs like book club, a fishing club, it's much more of like a social component. Students with a similar interest can get together, have fun. I think in my experience, it's been a great way to connect with kids outside your grade level. And then there are clubs that have more of an external focus, like the environmental stewards, where a lot of our work is kind of trying to inspire the rest of the student body to kind of take part in this environmental work. I think clubs also connect to student government here, although student government is much more formal. Each class at St. Andrews has a form council, which is made up of 6 students, 3 boys and 3 girls. And students will run for these positions each fall and kind of give speeches, and then they'll vote on their classmates to elect them. And then kind of once you're elected, the job of this form council is to really promote unity within these grades. Most of the work is in planning functions and all school events that all the grade can participate in and kind of bond. I know last year I served on the junior forum council with Madeline, and it was a lot of fun. Definitely learned a lot about kind of organization, but also kind of how to help people connect with one another. I think, yeah, a key component of both clubs and student government is also faculty support. And I think Alex could definitely talk a lot about that.
Yeah, faculty support, like Ms. Dupre, Mr. Reg, and Mr. Robinson all talked about, is a huge component of the school. One thing that I found is that I came as a freshman, and really by my junior year, I felt like the teachers at this school actually knew me really well, much more so than I felt at any day school, mainly because you're so proximate to them. So how that manifested for me was that when we had to go virtual in the spring last year, we were holding all of our elections for, councils, committees, things like that. And a couple of teachers really pushed me to run for the disciplinary committee, which is something that I had wanted to do for a while, but that I didn't really like. I wasn't quite comfortable with the speech and doing the whole election process. But they ended up pushing me, not too hard, but hard enough to get me to do it. And I ended up doing it, and I got elected, and I'm really happy with that decision. That's one of the best things that I did. And that's another one of the things that I want to talk about are the discipline and honor committees. The discipline and honor committees are student-run committees that handle different kind of rule violations within the community. So the honor committee will handle lying, cheating, and stealing, and anything that violates the honor code. And the disciplinary committee will handle things that are, drugs and alcohol related, safety rules, things like that. Basically anything that the honor committee doesn't do. And for me, I think that it's really one of those two committees are one of the pillars of the community, because the kind of the structure of the rules that we have are put in to ensure the integrity of the community. And the committees are kind of there so that the students are holding each other accountable. So each form will send 2 representatives to the committee, and the seniors on it are the heads of it. And if you have a violation, you'll go in front of the committee. The committee will talk it through with you. There's always a bunch of faculty members there as well. The idea of it is that it opens your eyes to what you did and how to be better going forward. And then the students on the committee will talk to the teachers, and then obviously the teachers end up making the decision about what to do. But it's just really great because you get to have some of the students give their input and their perspective on these violations and give their advice, so that it's not just the teachers who are making all these decisions, but then at the same time, you're making sure that students are holding each other accountable and making sure that, we can have the community we have. That's why we get to leave our doors unlocked. That's why we trust each other so much. It's just a really important pillar. And yeah, I think the next thing that people want to talk about was swag. So that's Madeline and Mr. Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk a little bit about swag. I mean, like Alex said, the HC and DC are both really strong pillars of the community. And I mean, one of those rules that's it's not a very hard rule to follow, but it's very like integral to the community is our cell phone policy, which is just basically leave your phone on dorm, and that's it. It's pretty simple. And that kind of plays a lot into swag. So because we don't have our phones out, I mean, people aren't, sitting on the front lawn texting or Snapchatting or whatever. They just are on the front lawn hanging out, like playing frisbee, or if we open up the pond with a student lifeguard, then we have canoeing and that sort of thing. So I think we had a question about what sort of activities swag does. So swag meets every Monday night. A couple of seniors and people from all grades, plus our trustee advisor, Mr. Rarig, and we talk about what we want the weekend to look like. So, I mean, I guess we could give an example of what's going to happen this
I was going to say,
weekend.
why don't we go over some of the stuff that's happening this weekend? So, I mean, we're currently in our morning classes. So that's what most of our students are doing right now. And then we'll break for lunch. And then really that's when swag takes over and the activities begin. And one thing I'll tell you too, I know we've seen a couple questions here with the pandemic and the times we live in, and what do the weekends look like. And the weekends I think have been more important than ever and have been more incredible than ever. We've been very intentional in creating activities. We've got 2,200 acres, and you're about to hear all of the ways we're taking advantage of using those in our weekend activities, so that we still have really immersive, really exciting, really great opportunities, even though our students need to stay here on campus and act in a safe manner following our protocols. So after this, one of the big things we've been doing this fall is a volleyball tournament. It's been ongoing. We're in the second round. We're almost to the finals. Things are hot. Last week, people were playing in costumes because it was Halloween. And so that's going to be going on. You'll see the whole school will travel out there. There's concessions, there's food available. And then after that, let's see, Madeline, what comes up after that?
Okay, hang on. I need to pull up this week. After that, after volleyball, we started selling some concessions at volleyball, which Will Rob kindly picked up for us the other week, very last minute. He waited in the line for a crazy long time. I mean, this weekend is a calmer weekend, so we're gonna have a food order from a local Mediterranean deli, be picked up by a couple faculty members, and we'll hand that out to students. We're gonna have a movie on the front lawn and some paddle tennis later tonight.
And I think it's safe to share the secret because nobody on
I was
here-
gonna say, I think we could.
No.
Okay. Okay, so the secret thing that's happening tonight is the seniors are putting on a haunted house, which is actually going to be a haunted trail, which is an annual tradition that we have been telling everybody, we can't do it because of COVID protocol, but really we're going to surprise them and scare them really badly tonight. So,
and I think that's a great example.
Just a little bit.
A great example of something that's been student driven. It's been planned by our school presidents and by their form council. And they're going to set it all up. They're going to clean it all up. And that's all driven by them. But some of the other things happening this weekend, Model UN has been hosting each weekend little called SAS Light. We usually host a big conference in the fall. Unfortunately, we could do that. So we're doing little on campus, just ones with our students. Tomorrow, there's a hike around the pond and a barbecue after. So again, taking care of that full 2,200 acres. They're going to go all the way around the pond, takes a couple of hours, and then have a celebratory barbecue afterwards. We're getting pizza from a local pizza place tomorrow evening. Again, students, unfortunately, the ordering's a little more limited because of some of the protocols with entering campus. So we're the delivery people for them. So I'll be running out and picking up over 100 pizzas and bringing them on campus. We partnered with a local pizza place. And so there's just, again, there's always something to be doing over the course of the weekend, and every student has full access. I know I saw earlier, like, what does it look like for a freshman? What it looks like for a freshman and what it looks like for a senior are the exact same thing. Every student is allowed and expected and encouraged to participate in every single activity that they feel comfortable doing so.
Absolutely. And we have been very fortunate. It's actually my duty weekend. Was on my team. We have been very fortunate with the weather. And so there will be open waterfront where they can canoe. Kids will be out on the front lawn playing spike ball. And this evening we have, and so what I wanted to talk about, we have things that for just about everybody. So if you want to be in a big crowd doing lots of fun things, you can do that. But we also have some sort of quieter things for kids who want to just maybe play some board games under the tent, or maybe want to go stargazing tonight because it's going to be a beautiful night with some members from our science department who will have telescopes set up on the football field and be able to do that. So there's so many different things that we are allowed to do this over the course of our weekends that make it really a whole lot of fun. I wanted to get back to some of the questions because I really do want to make sure that we are answering your questions. And someone asked a question about roommates, right? Because that is a big deal, right? You're coming to boarding school, who's going to be my roommate? That process is, well, as co-dean of residential life and also working in admissions, I work with my admissions team to match up. Right? Because so what we do your first year is we figure out who do we think will make great matches. Now we're going to look for things that you have in common, but we're really going to look for things that you don't have in common. Where are you coming from? What sort of interest you have? Because the whole reason for coming together at a boarding school is to learn from others. You don't want a roommate. And first of all, you don't want a roommate that does exactly the same thing you do, because then you'll spend too much time with each other and maybe ready to, it's not always conducive to great room living. So we look to make the match. Now, my goal, and this is rooted in my experience, I'll let you know this, is to hit it out the park, right? Madeline and Sarah are examples of when I hit out the park, because I was matched with a roommate my first year, and we stayed together up until we both went to live on different dorms our senior year. And so that's important. And whether we hit it out the park and it's a match made in heaven, or it's somebody who, it was really challenging, and next year I'm going to pick a different roommate, you are open to picking your roommate after your first year. So that's how the roommate policy works. In regards to support on dorm for, or just support for new students acclimating, there's so many ways. I want to touch on one, which our seniors can definitely speak to, is that when we have a new student come in, we assign them a big brother or a big sister. If all works well, we try to do one that they may be geographically close enough to maybe meet up over the summer, but if not, that communication begins over the summer. And it's sort of that person who's going to mentor you, touch base with you, and so excited to get you on campus and show you around and introduce you to other people. But I'll let some of our seniors who have both had big brothers and big sisters and are now big brothers and big sisters to talk about that.
Yeah, I can touch on that. The big brother, big sister program is really, really awesome. I remember coming in my freshman year. My older sister was actually a senior here that year, so I already kind of, I knew her obviously, but when I arrived on campus, I met my big brother Alec. And just like right off the bat, he showed me around. I got to know where everything was. I figured out where everything, like where I needed to go for all my classes. So he gave me that introduction really well. And then just after that, you just always know that you have that person who you can talk to, and who knows the school and who's there for you, no matter like what the situation is. And I found that right after that, after experiencing being a little brother, I realized how bad I wanted to be a big brother, and how exciting that was. And this year I actually have two little brothers. One is a new junior and one is a new freshman. And they're both great. And I've had a lot of fun just getting to show them the community and, talking to them and getting to know them and trying to help them adjust to the school, because I think that it's such a beneficial thing to have for new students to come into such an unfamiliar place, to just have someone who's just like that. They're right there for you and they have your back immediately. I think it's awesome personally.
Okay. And there are some other questions in terms well, here, this is a parent question. I'll get to that, right? A couple of parent questions, because I know you guys have them. Someone asked, with the limited cell phone, with our cell phone policy, does that limit students' ability to be in touch with family and friends at home? And I'm going to say, sometimes that depends on your relationship with your students. Now, most times they will find time, even though they can't have their phones off dorm, they will find times, they'll go back to their rooms to call home, to connect. Sometimes families will make a scheduled time. There are also times where we get phone calls from, mostly happens on the boys' side, I must say, of, I've been trying to reach my son, I haven't heard from him, what's going on? Here's a hint, parents, and I know this from experience as a student and experience as a parent who had a student at St. Andrews before I came back to work. If you can't reach them and they're not calling you, rest assured they are having a great time, because that is a sign that they're having a great time. So it may take a nudge to say to an advisor, can you have him call me? And then a reminder to you to say, I paid a cell phone bill. If you don't call me, I'm cutting it off. That might initiate some, but there are always times for you to connect with students. Riding around campus, tons of bikes and scooters. There's a big skateboard thing that's happening. I see lots of kids on skateboards over by my house. I live on the other side of campus. So you do have the freedom within the campus to walk around and do lots of different things. In terms of visiting, in a normal life, families are always welcome to be here. Some students would say, could you please tell my parents not to come again this weekend? And others are really looking forward to it. Right now, because of trying to make sure that we can stay in session together, we've limited somewhat in that families are allowed to come to campus to maybe bring a picnic lunch and be out on the fields with their students to spend some time. We can't have outside families into the dorms right now, just because we want to make sure that we stay in tune. And I want to talk a little bit about that too. You know, there are some challenges to the way that we are used to living because of the way we have to live for safety reasons. We don't have common rooms in our dorms anymore. We can't hang out in the common rooms. But what we've been able to do is translate all of that wonderful energy outside into outside areas, right? So students still have access to one another out on the front lawn. There's with 2,200 acres, there is lots of room for us to get out and enjoy one another. And so I do want to hit on one more question, and I'm gonna let somebody else answer some more questions. But I know as when you're thinking about how do you help students who have never been away from home, right? This is the first time they're away. What supports? There's so many supports in place. We talked about the big brother, big sister. We talked about the dorm faculty who work, especially in our freshman dorms. We that are really keen to helping kids to acclimate. We talk advisors. Each student is assigned to an advisor. Almost every faculty member has a group of advisors. They range from 4 to 8 that are part of sort of that smaller family. And advisors are that point, they're the point person. We know everything that's going on academically, extracurricularly, socially. We're meeting one-on-one, we're meeting as groups. And so you have all of those things. We have peer counseling, right? That happens. Madeline talked about that, where seniors are helping to support students in need. We have counselors here on staff who help students. So there's support all across the board for making sure that everyone is feeling connected. And then the other piece is we keep you so busy working with each other, the orientation pieces, doing class functions together, that you don't have a whole lot of time to be sad about being away from home. Nighttime is usually when that typically happens, and there's supports on dorm for that. But again, we're all in this together. And there are a couple of questions for students who may not be coming in at that big entry point of 9th grade, right? You're coming in as a new 10th grader or a new 11th grader. I'd love Teddy to answer that. From his perspective, what I will say from our perspective is that once you're here, and this is just from our perspective, Teddy can speak for himself. Once you're here, it's like 3 weeks and we forget that you weren't here last year.
I was gonna say, I actually forget. I would have lost the bet that Teddy was a new sophomore.
You forgot he was a new sophomore, right?
I didn't realize he was a new sophomore. I thought Teddy was I thought he'd been here since 7th grade.
Okay, so Teddy, take it away.
Sure, yeah. I think kind of the introduction of new sophomores and new juniors as well into the community really, I think, kind of speaks to what it's like to be at St. Andrews. I remember kind of the summer before I got here, and maybe like the first week or so, I was really nervous about kind of what that would look like. And I've had this idea that I would spend the fall kind of building these bridges and connections with other people. And I have to say, when I got here, I was really surprised because everybody else came up and started approaching me. Like I was kind of this new member of the community, and they were really almost like curious, like what I was like, and they really wanted to get to know me. And I think it was a really easy process of kind of integrating the community. And I'd say, like Ms. Dupre said, after probably like the first month or so, I really felt like I had kind of found my footing within the community. And it was a really smooth transition.
Yeah, one thing I want to add to that is, as I said earlier, one of my little brothers is a new junior. And I mean, he seems to have settled in like unbelievably well. And it's just, it seems like, I think there are a couple other new juniors this year. All of them, even with all of the COVID restrictions, which make it a little bit harder to get to know people sometimes, they just fit in so well. And from my experience as a returning student coming in, like when the new sophomores were coming in, like Teddy, I remember people actually being like excited for the new sophomores, like they wanted to get to know them. kind of like Teddy said, I don't know if curious was the right word, but they just really want to get to know the new sophomores. They want to make new friends. They want to meet new people. They want to bring them into the community because I don't know, people just get really excited about that here. So in some ways it might be even easier to be a new sophomore, a new junior than a freshman. And in some ways not, obviously.
I think just to add to this, I mean, this is just
We're having a hard time hearing you, Will.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Is it
better?
St. Andrews is really a family. It's a community in all the best sort of ways. I was thinking about on Wednesday, I had an advisee who broke his collarbone playing soccer. And this is the kind of place where you get the phone call, you go to the health center, he's already there with Mr. Wood, our incredible assistant athletic director and trainer. He's there with him. The nurses are all there. We get him in the van. I take him to the hospital. On the way up to the hospital, and actually there were people outside the van waiting, outside of the health center waiting to see him, to check in on him, to see if he was okay. And all the way up to the hospital, his phone was ding. It was like ding, ding, ding. You know, text messages, people trying to, how are you? Are you okay? I had faculty members calling me to see how this student was. I mean, those are the times. It's been really busy this fall. It's been very different. But at our core, this is the kind of community where everybody is seen, everyone is known, and everyone cares about each other. Whether you're a new sophomore, as Alex said, a new junior, whether you're a new faculty member, whatever it might be, this is a place where we really, really take care of each other in ways that it's really special and it's real. Is what I think I like about it the most. It feels very real, because in those tough moments, what do? We reach out and we see how people are doing. So, and we've certainly seen that this fall for sure.
Yeah, and
Let's ask some questions.
I wanted to touch on a question because we made the weekends are a lot of fun and there's a lot of stuff going on, but there's a concern is there's also academics that have to get taken care of. And so as there are so many things going on, students, they are finding time to get work done. I mean, on weekend duty, we're walking around, sort of making sure everything is great. And I'll have students who are on the front lawn playing spike ball, and I'll have students who are in classrooms getting work done. I have students who are outside in either in tents or sitting on a blanket getting work done. So there's a balance of that, and there's not necessarily a sense of missing out, but there's the reality, right? That you can't do everything, right? So you have to figure out, this is something that I want to take part in. I need to get this paper done. Let me get that paper done. So then I can go and have that the weight off my shoulders and do something else. And so there is, and sometimes it takes some help from advisors to help students who may not be bending that way to, okay, let's sit down and figure out what you're going to actually concentrate on getting done this weekend. So, and again, that's that support system. Teachers reaching out to dorm faculty, to advisors, to let us know what's going on. That is sort of that network of support where that comes into play. I do, again, want you to hear from the students. And here's a question for Teddy, Madeline, and Alex. How do you feel you've changed since joining the St. Andrews community?
I mean, I can hop on that one first, because I was looking in the Q&A. I thought, wow, that's a good question. So I feel like I've been thinking about this a lot. I think especially around the COVID and what has that meant too. But I think something the St. Andrews community and COVID too have really helped me in figuring out is like kind of becoming more confident. So I know Alex was saying like, teachers like pushed him to do DC, and I've kind of felt the same thing. Like the teachers are very supportive. I've made some really close friendships that are also very, very supportive. And so that's kind of boosted like my confidence and just feeling more comfortable taking on like a leadership role in swag or in book club or in the choir to help other people get excited about those things and bring them in and figure out what they like to do as well. And I think that connects a little bit. We've had a couple questions too about how are people making friends now with the COVID And it's hard, but my sister is new. She's a new sophomore this year, my biological sister, and she's just been making friends kind of outside on the front lawn, waiting in the line for meals, like playing volleyball on the weekends. So it's harder to make connections with people during the COVID, but it's definitely, the community is still there. It's just moved outside. And yeah, so Teddy, Alex, I don't know, do you want to talk
Yeah,
about
no,
your
I love the
experience?
hop on that. I also thought it was a really cool question. I think, yeah, confidence is definitely a big thing that I've gained a lot of since I got here, and that has to do with the community. But I think the biggest change for me has probably been, I guess, responsibility and kind of being more self-sufficient, if that makes sense. This connects a little more to academics than student life, but I think kind of the way that we run the community here, and especially with the seniors, the faculty really give the responsibility of kind of stewardship of the community to the students. And I think that really has inspired me in my years here to kind of, be more mature and kind of take on these roles as, a senior, but also even as an underclassman to kind of be, the person who reaches out and makes connections. Yeah, generally stuff like that. I think kind of St. Andrews gives a lot of responsibility to the students, but students are really great at taking or stepping up and taking on that responsibility. And I found it truly inspiring, really. And it's been been a big area of personal growth for me, I think.
Yeah, for me, that's almost a hard question to answer because there's so many answers that I could give because I think that I've changed a ton since my freshman year. Definitely maturity would have to be one. I think I've I think I've matured in a lot of ways since then. All for the better. Definitely confidence, like Madeline said, and like Teddy said, responsibility as well. Both academic and socially. I've I've become more disciplined with my work. That's one thing that St. Andrews has taught me really well. Ms. Dupre was talking about people working on the weekends when people are outside. When I first came to St. Andrews, that was something that was kind of hard for me to do, to step aside from socializing and focus on my work. But I've gotten so much better at that. And then the last thing, and one of the biggest ones, just like leadership in general. Just I think St. Andrews has really taught me how to be a leader among my peers, and with the community as a whole. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Now we there are a couple of questions I do want to get at because it is part of our student life. It's outside of the academics, not necessarily athletic or artsy. Talk a little bit about the chapel program and what that means to you. What is it here at St. Andrews and what does it mean to you?
Sure. Yeah, I can start talking about that. Yeah, so I think it's in the name. Not St. Andrews is an Episcopal school, but I think a lot of the chapel program is not necessarily linked to kind of the Episcopal Church. I think chapel generally kind of serves as I guess, a communal time for reflection, and it's a lot of looking into different perspectives and kind of looking into yourself to contemplate things. We have 2 chapel services a week. We have Wednesday evening chapels and Sunday mornings. So Sunday mornings, I think, are definitely more of your traditional church. We take communion, only if you want to, of course. But I think Wednesday evenings, we have chapel talks. So a faculty or other member of the community will kind of get up and stand in the pulpit and give a talk on some life lesson that they've learned. And I think that's really a valuable community moment. I think this year, I at least have really missed kind of being in the chapel because we're not allowed to be there with the guidelines, because it's really a space of introspection and kind of it's a moment to rest in kind of a hectic student life here. I don't know if some of the other seniors want to talk about their experiences with chapel.
Yeah, I mean, I can just talk a little bit more. I definitely have missed being in the chapel as well, and it's something that I never thought I would miss because I didn't grow up Christian or really religious in any way. So that's something I didn't really think would be a big part of the school, but it definitely has been. And for me, another part of it, in addition to hearing all the faculty members talk and feeling that sense of community, is the music. We have a a really talented organist and a lot of talented students who do a lot of music for the chapel, and that's through the choir program and through instrumental programs like orchestra and jazz band as well. So we have a lot of these beautiful music in addition to all of that too.
Great. Thank you guys for that. I wanted to make sure that we answered some questions we had from a few of our international students. And if you are joining us, it may not be good morning, it may be good evening. Thank you so much for being here. And I also want to touch on sort of how things are going. So because of COVID, we have been in session from the time the students have arrived, and we're going to go straight through until we break November 19th and 20th for a extended break. And we're not, and even when we return, we're not going to have sort of weekends where kids go away, because that re-entry piece is always sort of complicated. And so for our students, and we have one who is from Beijing, China, students, we don't have students who stay on campus. And our break for Thanksgiving is actually will be virtual between Thanksgiving break and that winter break. And then we will again remain virtual from January until February 19th, where we will then take a spring break, a 2-week spring break, and return in March. And we will go straight through March to the end of the year. So that's what, and in terms of the number of students that we have on campus right now, we don't have our complete full student body. We have approximately, I believe, about 30 or 40 students who are doing virtual because of international challenges getting here or other reasons. But for the most part, all but about 40 of our students are here physically with us on campus. There is also an international orientation that takes place, which at the beginning of the year, where we invite international students and their families to come a little early, to get acclimated, to get moved in, to meet the faculty, to sort of meet each other. And our current international students sort of host that orientation. And so there are ways that we stay connected with our families, our international families, that bring a great diversity and a wealth to help make our community what it is. So I hope that answers those questions. And I want to answer this one because we do this. There is room inspection. I want to say we do a big full room inspection every Monday morning. My partner, Will Rarick, and I, we break up with the dean's office and we inspect every room. There is inspection almost every night, right? Just to make sure that rooms aren't, headed toward that disaster zone. So we do want to make sure that you are maintaining that. And one other thing I'll say, we're not eating together in the dining hall as we once did. We have to eat by cohort. And so cohorts are in the dining hall, 2 to a table spaced out, and we make that rotation. It does make mealtime a little bit longer to get everyone through, but definitely worth making sure that we are safe and able to stay together. And I'm just want any other questions that you've seen that anybody wants to jump on. And no, Nathan, you don't have to bring a vacuum. We have vacuums on dorm for you to use. There are actually 25 students who are virtual, so even smaller number than the 40 I said. So I am, and we're grateful for that. Let me see.
Yeah, one area I can jump in and just, I've seen some questions about study hall and that, and again, kind of falls outside of the academics, even though it's used for academics, but that's really a dorm time. And so after students finish sports, which is usually around 5 or 5:30, they have dinner. And then that's really free time until 8 o'clock, 7:45 this year, 8 o'clock. And then our study hall begins. It's a 2-hour uninterrupted study block. Most of our younger students are required to give up their phones during that time so that it's really a study time for them. By the time they get to senior year, again, we've really tried to help them take those responsibilities. I think Alex spoke really well to that. And so they're allowed to study other places on campus and it's less monitored for them. And then after 10 o'clock to usually 10:30 is in a traditional time is usually that dorm time. It's usually either dorm faculty bringing food or playing games. That could be board games. It can be any sort of activity or discussion. This year, those have looked different. A lot of them are happening on Zoom. We're playing a lot of fun Zoom games or having Zoom discussions, but that's usually what that time looks like. And then most of our students, the lights out starts at 10:30 for our younger students, and it goes no later than 10:45 or 11 for our older students. So by 10:30, really the campus is wound down, and by 11, we expect everybody to be asleep until we start another great day.
Absolutely. And so we, again, promise to be respectful of your time. It is now 11:30. I know there's still so many questions that you may have. Here is what I want to encourage you to do. If you have not already scheduled an appointment for a tour, a virtual tour, I think we've done a phenomenal job in making it as realistic to a school visit as we possibly can. If you haven't scheduled your virtual tour and interview, you want to get that scheduled. That is absolutely another opportunity, because those tours are led by students. You get access to having students answer your questions. That student, you will have their email and you can continue to ask questions. We can put you in touch with anyone that you may want to speak with. So you want to make sure you get that done. This link will be, we're going to keep these questions and try to get these answers out, but I guarantee you that almost every answer to a question you could find on our website if you dig through it. But you can also reach out to us in admissions and we will make sure that we get you those answers. We have 2 more weeks of this series. So if you can join us next week, we will be going into athletics at St. Andrews. So whether you're interested because you have been playing a sport since you were 2 or 3 years old, or whether you have never played an organized sport in your life, the great thing about St. Andrews is you can come and you can jump in where you can get in. And so join us for that. We will also, the following week, we will be doing a deep dive into the arts program. So we have, I mean, there's just so much St. Andrews has to offer, and we so appreciate your time. And again, thank you for joining us. We look forward to hopefully meeting some of you on tour, an interview. And I want to thank this wonderful panel for giving of their time today to make sure that we are giving you a full taste of how we can of what St. Andrews is really all about. So thank you for joining us and have a great weekend.
Thank you all.
Thank you.